Howdy all, and welcome to the next lesson on Invasion of the Body Snatchers. We're going to be looking at questions 1A, 1B, 1C on Film Studies Paper 2, which is looking at the sci-fi conventions and how the exam board pose the question to you and how to approach them. Okay, so let's have a look then. 1A is going to be identify one genre convention using your chosen film. Obviously, your chosen film is Invasion of the Body Snatchers, so whatever convention, what typical expectation you have of that film is included in it. Okay, so that is sci-fi. The genre is sci-fi. So any conventions used. 1B is explain the importance of genre conventions in film, which means generally, not in this specific film, but generally, why are genre conventions used in film and why are they important? 4 marks. And then 1C, the big mark answer, is explore how the convention you have identified in 1A is used in one sequence from your chosen film. One sequence just means one scene, okay? So not talking broadly across the whole film, just one key scene. In your answer, refer to at least one key element of film. The key phrase here is at least. You can do more than one, okay? Cinematography, mise-en-scène, editing, or sound. You don't get more marks for talking about more than one, nor do you get more marks if you talk about only one. It's about doing what you think is best, so whatever best points you can make. So, the first thing we're going to do is look at a key scene in which I'll talk. We'll watch it first, and then I'll watch it again while I analyse it. Let's do that first, and then come back to this. Okay, let's analyse the scene then. Have a watch.
Where is he? Why doesn't he come? Just like any Saturday morning. Len Perlman, Bill Bittner, Jim Clark and his wife Shirley and their kids. People I've known all my life.
What time is it?
7:45. Yeah, I know. It's too early to be so busy.
What are they doing here?
There's the answer. Must be strangers in town. They've been waiting for the bus to come and go. There isn't another one through here until 11. Farmers. Grimaldi. Pixley. Gessner.
Crescent City. If you have Crescent City families, step over to truck number 1. Crescent City, the first truck. Red Bank. All with Red Bank families, the contacts, go to truck number 2. All with Red Bank families, the contacts, truck number 2. Havenhurst, the third truck. Havenhurst, the third truck. Milltown, the third truck. Milltown, the third truck. Valley Springs, the third truck. Valley Springs, the third truck.
Where's Downtown?
Truck number 2.
And all the towns around us.
Havenhurst.
It's a malignant disease spreading through the whole country.
That's all for today. Be ready again tomorrow.
I can't wait for Jack any longer. Stay here.
But you're not getting out there.
I've got to stop them.
Oh, wait, we're safe here.
Tom. Jack, thank God. Jack, the whole town's been taken over by the pods.
Not quite. There's still you and Becky.
Okay, let's take this back then and take it step by step on how to analyse this scene. So you get this establishing shot of the location. We're looking down on them almost judgmentally, and then you also have there's the kind of like creepy nature of this. You don't get any close-up shots on any of the characters because they don't really mean anything anymore. Everyone's part of this same unit, so we have to see things from Miles' perspective at a distance as though we're not part of this community.
Just like any Saturday morning.
The dialogue suggests that it's kind of like sarcastic about it, as though he feels like something's wrong, but the neighbourhood is going about their business.
Glenn Perlman.
We get this track of following Becky over to behind Miles, as though suddenly wanting to see what he can see, just like the audience are trying to as well.
Jim Clark and his wife Shirley and their kids. People I've known all my life.
We get this pan shot across as though Miles is taking in what he's watching, as though it should be normal, but it's not. Something doesn't feel right. And the camera angle suggests that as well. Again, no close-up shots, just from us at a distance as though we're not part of it. We get this close-up shot of these two together as though they're on a like confined by each other. You've got the flowers next to Becky, you've got the window next to Miles, and they're very close together, and he stood in front of her as though he's protecting her.
45. Yeah, I know. It's too early to be so busy.
What are they doing here?
Let's skip forward. What you may have noticed there then is that the police siren triggers the sound of the phone ringing as though the outside danger has now come inside next to them, and they're having to look behind them as though they're waiting for something bad to happen. So you get this diegetic sound of both the sound outside and then the ringing of the phone inside. But they ignore it as though they're ignoring the signs of warning. Then the police siren and phone ring at the same time. That happening concurrently is done on purpose, as though the danger is overwhelming them. Skip forward. You get this creepy shot of all these characters moving forwards like ants as though part of a colony, and we're looking down on them again, judgmentally from Miles and Becky's perspective. You get this long period of silence as well as we wait. And what you'll have noticed there is that although the sound was off screen there of the truck, it was still diegetic. We could hear it coming, like almost sounding like a plane actually. Listen to it again. You can hear it. And then you see it. And then the only thing moving there is the camera tracking the truck, because that is what Miles is looking at. We then get this cut to back to the establishing shot and see more trucks of the same kind. And they're also in a triangle, as though they're kind of like a strong force together. Okay, so you get in the triangle of the middle section and the triangle of trucks as well. And then it's slowly realising who the characters are. He's naming the characters because he knows them. He sees the pods.
If you have Crescent City families,
And then there's this creepy shot here. There's something off about this shot, and it's kind of hard to put a finger on. But we're looking down at this person. We don't give him the sense of power, because the power isn't within one person. It's within the community, because these people have now been taken over all together rather than just on an individual basis.
Crescent City, the first truck.
Giving instructions.
Havenhurst. Valley Springs, the third truck. Valley Springs, the third truck.
We're Startown,
Truck number 2.
and all the towns around us.
Havenhurst.
It's a malignant disease spreading through the whole country.
That's all for today. have you again tomorrow.
And then they all disperse.
I can't wait for Jack any longer. Stay here.
This is where the camera gets quite quick now, quite frenetic and chaotic, and we also get some quite quick cuts.
Gotta stop.
Quick cut, very quick to him, like this this shot of him being aggressive right there.
Safe.
And then as it turns now, it turns into a different sort of close-up shot, giving him this sense of power, looking to the right-hand side of the screen, as though looking forwards, trying to look for the next decision to be made. And then quick pan over to the door, and the burst of music, almost like a jump scare, to the handle. The handle tries to move. Becky goes to join Miles. This woman in white, a singular of innocence, passing over towards Miles as though looking to him for assistance.
Jack, thank God.
Music is hopeful, but it's got a sense of eeriness to it as well, because we know that Jack is likely to be a bad guy still, but Miles hasn't quite realised it. Listen to that sound again.
Oh, wait, we're safe here.
Burst of music. Relief.
Jack, thank God. Jack, the whole town's been taken over by the...
So the music, although is a little bit more positive, there still has that eeriness to it, because we know that something bad's about to happen, even though he hasn't. They've even left this kind of like gap behind Jack, as though something's coming behind him, which there is.
There's still you and Becky. Miles, it would have been so much easier if you'd gone to sleep last night.
And you'll notice now that they're almost like a unit moving together at the same time.
We're here to help you.
Finishing each other's sentences. He takes off the handle of the phone, as almost like he's going to make a phone call, or maybe even use it as a weapon. So you get this kind of like this pan down, not pan down, crane down, looking at the phone as though what's he going to do with it.
You know better than that.
And then by the time we've craned back up again and looking up again, we get the two characters, one of which was giving the speech outside, so they're now outnumbered.
Would you like to watch them grow?
No, thanks.
You got the dark side behind Becky and Miles, giving them the sense of shadow over their existence now. The enemies are put in the light, and the heroes are put in the dark, as though they're in that danger and they can't escape. We can't see their expressions really.
We're not going to hurt you.
But once you understand, you'll be grateful.
Okay, we'll stop there then. So you can kind of see how all of these elements, from the music to the cinematography to the editing, and even to the sound choices with what's inside the world as well, and the costumes, you can see how this kind of builds up this tension around the typical convention of distrust of the other, and distrust of aliens that have come into their world. Okay, so now that we've watched that clip and analysed it, I'm going to show you how to approach these key questions then. Okay, so firstly, 1A, identify one genre convention used in your chosen film. Well, in the clip, you have aliens, distrust of the unknown, and secrecy. These three elements all go into sci-fi. Okay, now obviously the best one to choose here is probably aliens, okay? But just to show you that you can still get all the marks by talking about a different one, I'm going to choose distrust of the unknown, okay? Because in sci-fi, typically, a lot of the characters don't know what's happening, therefore they don't trust what's going on, things that they don't understand, okay? So I'm going to show you how to approach 1C by analysing that in a minute. But before we do that, I'm going to give you an example response to 1B, okay? So any of those three, not all three, any of those three would have got you the 1 mark, okay? So, 1B then. 4 marks. Explain the importance of genre conventions in film. Remember, conventions are things you typically expect of the genre. So in romance, you expect to have cheesy dialogue, love, romance, maybe even sex scenes. However, in horror, you expect to have death, you expect to have darkness, you expect to have a villain, okay? So this is my answer then. This isn't everything, and this isn't a perfect response, but this will get you all of the marks because of certain keywords that I've included. Genre conventions are important because of the expectations audiences have. When a person sees the trailer or poster for a film and certain conventions are used, like darkness for a horror film, then they expect to see that type of film. Also, as they watch the film, if they hear creepy music, they expect something creepy to happen. These shortcuts are important, so not everything has to be explained to the audience. So some of the phrases here that I've used in order to get these answers are expectations, obviously, using the word conventions, okay, and audiences, okay. In that first sentence, I've hit 3 notes that are really important, which are the conventions, because you're answering the question, which is about expectations and audiences, what you expect when you go into a film. I also mentioned trailers and posters, which isn't entirely necessary. You could just focus on the films themselves, but I did that just to show that you can reach more broadly if you want to. I then gave an example from one that isn't connected to what we're looking at. You can use one from sci-fi if you wanted to, but I chose to show you that you can actually talk about other genres, not necessarily just Invasion of the Body Snatchers and sci-fi. I gave another example, hence the connective there. Also, as they watch the film, if they hear creepy music, again, another example, they expect certain things to happen. These shortcuts, okay, that word shortcuts is really important, okay, and then I did a brief explanation of why that's important. So these elements in question 1b, why genre conventions are important, you need to cover conventions, expectations, audiences, and an example. Okay, as long as you cover those, you'll be fine. Conventions, expectations, audiences, example. Okay, all right. Now let's look at 1C then. 1C is the big mark answer, okay, which is explore how the convention you've identified in 1A, I wish they'd write that in 1A, but they don't, okay, so you have to know what they're talking about. Explore how the convention you've identified in 1A is used in one sequence from your chosen film. In your answer, refer to at least one key element of film, e.g. cinematography, mise-en-scène, editing, or sound. I did 2, which was cinematography and sound, but I could have done editing, the fast editing, and I could have done mise-en-scène with how close the characters are together and also the costume, but I didn't. Okay, so this is my answer then, which is also not necessarily representative of a 10-mark answer. When you return to school, I will give you more examples of how to reach those top mark answers, but for now I need you to understand how to approach each question first before we actually talk about how to get the best response and to get those grades 7s, 8s and 9s. Okay, so understanding the question first. Okay, so don't panic if this feels a little bit low level or think that I'm misunderstanding how good you are at analysing. It's just that I wanted to get the basics before we go deeper. All right. The sci-fi genre convention of distrust of the aliens is explored during the film when Miles and Becky see the pods in the street. Just stop there for a second. Make sure you mention which scene you're talking about. They can't read your mind. Be clear about the example, okay, and what scene you're talking about. For example, with the cinematography, the close-up of Becky over Miles' shoulder shows her fear and his protectiveness against the unknown. They are close together, so they are expected to be a combined force against the aliens. Also, the high-angle establishing shot of the street distances the characters and the audience from the aliens. No close-ups are used for them because they have lost all individuality. So that brief analysis there, that little pedal, would cover several of the bases. Okay, if I just stopped there, I'd probably get about 4 marks for that. But because I've gone further, I get more marks. Sound is also used to show the distrust. When the diegetic sound of the police siren is used, it continues until the sound of the phone rings in the room. This is used to show how the danger has come to them, showing that their fear of the unknown is accurate. Furthermore, the choice to have the music bursting when the handle shakes shows how the characters have an intense distrust of whatever is beyond the door, which they rightfully expect to be the pod people. So you'll notice in both paragraphs here I've given 2 examples. So I had the close-up shot in the top one, and I also had the establishing shot in the top one. However, in the bottom one, when they talk about sound, I mentioned the phone ringing and the siren, but I also mentioned the music as well. So by talking about multiple elements, it allows you to go a little bit deeper and connect ideas together, rather than it being like it is in English, where you'll focus on a keyword and go deeper and deeper and deeper. Instead, you're almost making an argument by having lots of different lots of different examples being talked about all at once, so to show that there's an overwhelming feeling for the audience and not just a single thing being used. Okay, so what I've shown you here then is how to tackle 1A, 1B and 1C. So in almost all of the scenes, you're going to have an example of aliens because they're in both Invasion of the Body Snatchers and E.T. when we get to it. Okay, but distrust of the unknown is also likely to be there. Fear is also likely to be there. Okay, which comes under genre themes as well. Okay, so 1B was there. Welcome to reread it, and you're welcome to reread 1C. What you're going to do now then is, at the end of this video, I'm going to show you two scenes that are really important to the plot, and you're going to pick one of the key scenes. Okay, so pick one of the key scenes and explain 1A, 1B, 1C for that scene. So you need to do 1A, 1B, and 1C for the two clips that I'm about to show you. Okay, so these are your final these are your final three activities: 1A, 1B, 1C for one of the two clips that I'm going to show you. You don't need to do both unless you really want to. I'm happy to read both, but pick one, answer 1A, 1B, 1C. I'm going to start repeating myself. That's the end of the video. Watch the clips, answer the questions. See you next time, guys.
Of the charcoal. I can't get this stuff to burn.
Oh, martini isn't dry enough. I'll get you something to start it. For drinking purposes. You're looking shipshape.
Thank you, sir.
Here we are.
They're like huge seed pods.
This must be the way that putty in my closet was formed. Miles, where do they come from?
I don't know. If they are seeds or seed pods, they must grow someplace on a plant, probably. And somebody or something wants this duplication to take place.
But when they're finished, what happens to our bodies?
I don't know. When the process is completed, probably the original is destroyed or disintegrates. No, wait!
Right, but I take a dim view of watching my own destruction take place.
There isn't any danger until they're completely formed. We learned that last night at your house. Your blank didn't change right away.
Not until you fell asleep. Miles, when the change does take place, do you suppose there's any difference?
There must be. Wilma noticed it. So did little Jimmy.
So did I. My father.
That must be what he was doing in the cellar last night, placing one of these. I'm sorry.
I felt something was wrong, but I thought it was me because I've been away for so long. They have to be destroyed. All of them.
There will be. Every one of them. Listen, we're going to have to search every building, every house in town. Men, women, and children are going to have to be examined. We've got some phoning to do.
Well, I'm going to stay right here where I can watch them.
I'm going to stay with you.
And don't call the police! Nick Rivet didn't find any body on a burning haystack.
Why don't you call Danny? Maybe he can...
Would you... Doctor for a while. Would you be able to forget that you're a doctor for a while?
Why?
I don't want you to call the police right away.
Quit acting like a writer. What's going on?
Maybe you can tell me. You're the doctor. Miles, put the light on over the pool table.
on, pull it down. Well, what do you make of it?
Who is he?
I have no idea.
Its face, Miles, it's vague.
It's like the first impression that's stamped on a coin. It isn't finished.
You're right. There's all the features, but no details, no character, no lines.
It's no dead man.
Have you got an ink pad around the house?
Should be one on the desk line.
I want to take the corpse's fingerprints.
Of course it's a dead man. What else could it be?
I don't know, but I've got a feeling that... This sounds crazy, but if I should do an autopsy, I think I'd find every organ in perfect condition. Just as perfect as the body is externally. Everything in working order. All set to go. Hold it now. He's a blank.
Waiting for the final finished face to be stamped onto it.
But whose face? Tell me that.
I think we could all use a drink.
Bourbon all right?
Fine.
Not for me, thanks. Miles, answer me. Whose face?
I haven't the slightest idea, honey. Have you?
How tall would you say that thing is?
5'10", thereabouts.
How much does it weigh?
It's pretty thin. Maybe 140 pounds.
Jack's 5'10" and weighs 140 pounds.
Teddy, will you stop talking nonsense?
I'm sorry, darling.
Come on, let's have that hand.
But it isn't nonsense.